Alrighty, so welcome everyone. For those who are new, just procedure reminders here is if you have a question, just interrupt because I can't see you unless you happen to get lucky to be like in my my little slot of people I can see. Okay, so unlike last week, we actually have a much more easy to read pasuk. So if you were traumatized by last week and are still here, then then you can rest assured that it's not going to be traumatic this time. Okay, here we go. So we're on 10:4. Okay, Rush Ose Chaf Remia Viad Harutzim Ta'ashir. Would anyone like to attempt to translate that? The syntax is weird. So if you're thinking to yourself, the syntax looks weird, then you're right.
Is Chaframia a sleight of hand?
Ooh, spoken by like a true magician's wife. So it is. It's close. It's close. How would you translate Ramia? Kaf is hand or palm. That's true. And it is sleight of hand in a way.
Trickery.
Yeah. So trickery. Yeah. So kaf Ramia, you could say, is a deceitful hand. Okay. So let's translate it like that first. Okay. A deceitful hand, and there's going to be another translation. Okay. But deceitful hand. Now, rush looks like the word rosh. Okay. Which is head. No one that I saw actually translates it as rosh. They all say that it is really that the aleph is added here. In fact, you know what? I'm going to actually prematurely bring up the Matsudas ציון because he's authoritative. We trust his grammar, and he says rosh is inyan kamo reish va'osher. Okay, so even if you don't know what reish is, if it's the opposite of, well, if it's paired with osher, anyone know what reish is? Poverty, right? So deceitful hand, you got to, this is what's weird about the context, the syntax, you got to flip it. Kaf ramia ose rosh. Okay, so a deceitful hand makes a poor person. All right. Viyad charutzim ta'ashir.
Wait, sorry, how do you read it as, just like, grammatically it seems like it's the rush who's doing it seems like it's the poor person who's doing the deceitful hand. Yeah,
I'll show you why I'm reading it this way in a second. And like I said, there are two ways to read it. When I said it's not gonna be traumatic, I didn't mean that there's only one way to read it. Okay, so let's just finish this one out first. So Yad Harutzim Tashir. How do you translate that?
And the hand of a diligent will become rich.
Yeah, but the hand of the diligent will make rich, I think is probably a better translation. Okay, or will make wealthy. All right. So that's one route that you're going to go. Okay. Now the other route, if you could see the Matsudas David here. I keep saying Matsudas David, Matsudas ציון, same person. Kaf, he says here, is kaf hamoznayin. Anyone know what that is?
Scales.
The palm of the scales. Now, palm of the scales here is not like a human palm, unless you've got really sick scales. It's it means like what do you call it in English? If you got the balance, right? What do you call each of the plates? Is there a name for that? There's got to be a name for that.
Scale singular?
No.
Totally guessing.
The platform thingy. I don't know what you call it, right? So the there's got to be a word for it, right? Do we have no scale experts? Okay.
I feel like I used to know this word, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's whenever we talk about scales, like, you know, not that happens a lot. Let's cheat even more. Okay. Let's see if any of our English translations say it. No. Okay, fine. We'll look at the English translation in a second. But so let's say it like this. So Isaac, how did you want to translate it?
A poor person does a deceitful hand.
Oh, okay. So you still are learning it as hand. You're just flipping the syntax.
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, you can also read it as scales.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
That's a.
All right. Good. So you could say, let's say, makes a deceitful scale, or yeah, let's just get all the permutations out here. Okay, so a poor person makes a deceitful hand. Okay, which is weird, or does a deceitful hand, like you said, does a deceitful hand, and then the second half is going to be the same in either case, I think, right? I don't think that changes. But the hand of the diligent will make rich. A poor person makes a deceitful scale, but the hand of the diligent will make rich. And are those the only permutations, or am I missing one?
What about a deceitful scale makes a poor person?
Yes, a deceitful scale makes a poor person. But the hand of the diligent will make rich. Okay, good. Those are our 4 options here. Now, you asked why I translated it this way first. Okay, what is the advantage of this translation?
You could sort of understand what the consequences might be.
That's true, right? It is spelling out both consequences.
The opposite line.
Yes, is the symmetry works out better, right? Because you have a deceitful hand makes a person poor, and a diligent hand makes a person rich. So it just is a very like smooth flowing thing there. Okay, so but the disadvantage is that you are swapping the phrases in the pasuk in order to get there, which Hebrew wise is legitimate if you do that. But the other translations of a poor person makes a deceitful hand or makes a deceitful scale, that you could read it, in the words in order here. Okay. Okay. Another just translation term that we have to keep in mind here is, you notice, let's just look at our other translations here that we have. So charutzim I translated as diligent. Okay. Matsuda ציון translates it as, I'm just going to put Matsuda ציון here. He says, Inyano tenua uz. Oh, that's a typo from Alatora that they corrected when I sent it to them today. They're very diligent about correcting things. I just copied and pasted. So Inyano tenua uz zrizus. So zrizus we say is diligent. Okay. What is tenua?
Tenua is traffic.
That's got to be a modern Hebrew word, right? So
Yeah.
what's the biblical Hebrew tenua? Anyone know? Na with a
Disturbance?
a disturbance is okay, but that's kind of like negative connotation. Na versus
Navanad?
Yeah, navanad. You did this. I don't know who just said that, but I know my Lomdeha students just learned that today, right? In Mrs. Fader's class. Or did you not? I walked in when you guys said the words navanad.
It was Shanalaya. I wasn't in the
okay.
class. I was just thinking of
it means movement. Okay, na means movement. So movement and diligence. Okay, and then he quotes, he says, "Kamo az techaratz." The problem here, by the way, is the word charutz means a lot of different things. So everyone's kind of like trying to figure it out either based on context or based on other words. So we got movement and diligence. Okay, so that's one thing that the Matsuda says. Sadigon says haresh. Let's do Sadigon here, okay, as our alternate translation.
Matt,
those who are
would it be
joining
different? Would it be different if we said unsettlement instead of movement?
Unsettlement?
Is that what that?
Unsettlement. You're trying to say like unsettled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not. So let's say like
as like being
opposite of at rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Matt, I hear that. I hear that.
Me. Matt.
Yes.
This is Mom.
Yes.
The word is pan. P-A-N.
Oh, that's such a simple word. All right, thank you. All right. So deceitful scale pan. Okay. And deceitful scale pan. Let's say that. I'm gonna say scale pan because I think deceitful pan implies like cookery. Maybe he's cooking his books, but not his.
I saw scale pan also.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear. Okay, so
no, I didn't say it. I just saw it.
Oh, you thought? Okay. So Sadigon says like this: Haresh mi maase hakaf habatlanis. So he translates the first half as one who is poor on account of what's a kaf batlanis?
Negated hand.
Yeah, batlan does mean negated.
Is this like batlanim in like the Beit Medrash that they're not doing anything?
So, an idle scale. Okay, like he's not working. Okay, and then in parentheses, this is from the just background information for those who are new to our routine here. So Sadigon translated Mishlei into Arabic, and then Rav Kafich translated the Arabic back into Hebrew. So Kafich's commenting here that the word batlanis here means it is idle. He says on account of like disgust and impatience. Okay, so like a guy who is like doesn't want to work. All right, not just like there's no customers coming. Okay, so that's Sadigon. And then our last translation here is the Targum. He says miskenusa mamachacha legavra ramya. So I think when I tried looking at mamachacha means to make lower. So I think is legavra ramya is like a deceitful person will lower a person to the level of poverty. Okay, I'm just going to write this here. Targum here says a deceitful scale will reduce a person to poverty. That's probably a good way to put it. To poverty. Via de kashera ma'atra lahon. So how do you translate a kashera?
Straight.
Yeah, right. So like kasher is hard to translate, right? I mean, outside of food, a like straight.
Lawful.
Say again.
Lawful.
Lawful's good. Lawful's good, right? Lawful, decent, right? Adam kasher person will make money for him. Yeah. Okay. So there and then if you want to look at Art Scroll, I'm just going to delete these for now just to keep them on screen. Art Scroll says a deceitful scale makes a pauper, but the hand of the diligent brings prosperity. I don't think that's so much different than what we have, so I'm going to delete it. Living Knox says the deceitful hand impoverishes, but the diligent hand enriches. I don't think that's so much different than what we have. Alter says a deceitful palm brings privation, but the diligent hand enriches. So that actually does capture the nuance here in case it matters. A deceitful palm makes a person poor, but the hand of a rich, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all right, so we'll just say palm just for the sake of accuracy because kaf is different than yad. Okay, so there are the translations, and what we got to do now is figure out which one we're going to do, but at the same time, let's ask our questions and problems here. Oh, don't look at the מאירי. We're not supposed to look at that yet. Okay, all right, so I don't feel comfortable picking a translation yet, so let's just analyze this and see where it takes us. So what are the questions we're going to have to answer? And you can just ask according to whatever different translations you
what's the correlation between deceit and poorness?
Okay. Or to put it in more normal talky words, poverty, right?
That was normal talk.
Yeah. What is the just because we don't know what a cough is. Yeah. What is the correlation between deceitfulness and poverty? Good. That's going to be a main question.
Can a question be on the emphasis? So whether it's focusing on the individual or a system. So like when it's a deceitful palm, that might be less of the individual. And if you emphasize a poor person,
okay, let's just make your question more general and less like narrow, which is why is it emphasizing the yad and kaf? If it's talking about like deceitful and
lackings,
diligent people, right? That was what you're saying. Like, why is it emphasizing or let's say like I guess that's only according to one translation, but like, right?
Well, depending on how we translate it, it puts the active role in either the metaphor or the individual.
Yeah, let's number these just so we can like talk about which translation we're referring to. Or actually, let's letter them. I think
so in like 1 and 4, it's the deceitful palm that makes the poor person, and in 2 and 3,
right,
it's the poor person that then does or act with the deceitful palm.
Okay, good. Scale. Yeah. So I'm going to make this even more general to include all of that. Why is it emphasizing kaf and yad versus the person himself? Adjust according to translation. Okay, meaning like you got to take that into account differently for the different translations. Okay, what are the other major questions here?
Wouldn't you think that if somebody is deceitful with their scale, that's like a get rich quick scheme?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good. Right. So let's just ask the I mean, I guess this is kind of in Isaac's question, but Isaac was expressing it in the most general way possible. If a deceitful scale makes a person poor, so then how? Like, it seems like that could make them rich, you know? So I'm going to tack this onto this question because really that's where you would file it under. So which is, how does a deceitful scale make a person poor? Won't he get rich? Okay. Or another way of asking this question, which I think came up last time, I'm not sure, is this pasuk true? Just because Shlomo says it doesn't mean you should believe it. Obviously he wrote this with Ruach HaKodesh, but like if we're not convinced, then we can't learn from it. So like we have to make sure it's true. Okay,
I'm new to asking Mishlei questions, so I'm not sure if this is on target or not.
Sure.
But what do we mean by a deceitful palm, and what do we mean by a scale?
Okay, good. So what is a deceitful kaf? Okay, deceitful kaf, which we'll say is either a palm or scale. Good. That is a good question.
I was looking too.
Someone's talking.
Yeah, Rivki, go ahead. You popped up, Rivki. Maybe because your video's on, you popped up. So that's incentive for everyone to put their videos on if they want to, get first. Yeah, go ahead, Rivki.
No, so I'm just gonna say two things. First of all, I think that it's interesting that the second half of the pasuk for every single translation is the same, whereas the first half, that there are differences which we discussed.
Yeah.
And second thing I wanted to say also has to do with the second half of the sukkim, or I guess it's one pasuk. That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, for our intensive purposes, it's sukkim, but yeah.
Well, yeah, my question is just, again, I don't know if you're going to want to treat this as its own pasuk or just, Mishlei as a whole, but I guess I don't know why I'm taking 400 years to ask, but my question is, like, what is the chidush? Because I feel like that's a classic Mishlei thing.
All right, so yeah, we'll tack that on to the end here, which is what practical decision-making idea do we learn from this? And yeah, that'll differ based. So like you pointed out with your first question, the message is definitely be diligent and don't be the first half of the pasuk, right? But the question is like, how is that? Like what is that saying not to do? And then also just the observation you made about how the second half is the same. What that means is that in figuring all these out, one of the ways that we're going to be able to, this is the move we did last time, which is we had a pasuk last time where the first half of the pasuk was comprehensible and the second half was not. So what we did was we basically tried to work on the part that we definitely knew and then infer the other part from that. So I think that's a good methodological move here. We can think about the hand of the diligent and then bounce that off of the various ways we translate the first half to try to get somewhere. Yeah. So I'm not translating that into a question. That's like a move. Actually, I will translate into a question. Okay. How are the two halves opposites? And that might differ based on how we learn the pasuk or how we translate it.
Can I ask? I think this might be a particular of Rifki's question.
Sure.
But it seems to me that being diligent is like obviously correlated with, success or getting rich or things like that. So it seems like that's not. Maybe we have to figure out, okay, like what it is exactly. But
yeah, okay, good.
Like what's new?
If that's what Rivki was asking, then I missed that. Okay, which is what is the chidush, the new insight in the second half? Okay, diligence makes you wealthier. Yeah, good. And you see, I snuck in this question here. What is diligence? Because that's just like the opposite of or what is a diligent hand? Yeah.
I have just a novice Mishlei question.
Sure, those are the best.
When I see all the translations have but in the middle.
Oh yeah,
Is that implied in the pasuk?
Okay, so it's not this is not a definite thing, but the vav in Mishlei is often but because the psukim are opposites. The pasuk contains two opposite halves. So I like to translate it as but when it's a clear opposite. Sometimes that is a question of, do we say that it's an and or do we say it's a but? And sometimes the Mefarshim disagree about that. Like there are, let's say like this morning I'm learning a pasuk in yeshiva with the guys about that it's unclear whether the pasuk is talking about like two good guys, like a chacham and a navon, or whether it's saying that they're opposites. And so we had that question of whether to translate as an and or a but. Here, I think it's definitely a but because these are being depicted as opposites.
So the nafkamina would be that they're opposites if it's but not and?
Yeah, is if they're and, then maybe they're not opposites. Maybe they're just two levels of one thing, and then we'd have to like infer the opposite as something that's not talked about in the pasuk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question just on the first and the last definition.
Sure.
The way it's written, it kind of sounds like the hand is making the poor person and making the rich person. So kind of like, what is it doing it to itself? Is like the hand like a separate entity?
Wait, so tell me again which translation you're talking about here?
The first one and the last one.
First one and the last one.
It's like causative to the poor person. Instead of the poor person does something, it's this causes the poor person.
Right, that's also true. Right, or yeah, I mean that's also true for the second one. Yeah, I didn't understand it for a second. So deceitful palm makes a poor person. Yeah, so what this would be saying is just in plain shot is that if you have a deceitful palm, that will make you poor. And if you have this one saying if you have a deceitful scale, that will make you poor. Are you asking like to me it sounds like your question is similar to question number 2 is why is it emphasizing the hand or the yad or the kaf as the thing that creates the consequences? That was like what Shana Leah asked.
I'm asking more of like, is it the palm? Is it your palm that is creating the poor person, or is it a palm?
I see what you're saying. Okay, meaning like for example, let's say in pasuk Aleph, maybe someone else who is engaging in deceit creates poverty in someone else. Yeah. Okay, that's a legitimate question. I didn't even consider that. What is whose hand is making this person poor? Now, the reason why I didn't consider that, I'm putting the question there because it's a good question. I didn't see any of the Mefarshim who said it, and I think the reason why is because the second half of the pasuk definitely seems to be that if I have a diligent hand, that will make me rich. So I think everyone is assuming who says that this is a hand is that the poor person's hand or the person's hand himself is making him poor. You know, that's not an external person, but it's a good question just in terms of like reading, you know, the pasuk.
In that sense, can we look at ta'ashir differently as opposed to make you rich? Can ta'ashir be make one rich, or does the grammar make it more explicit?
I don't know enough about the grammar to say.
That would be interesting with that understanding.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's actually maybe why the art scrolls, or I don't know who said this, the translation of will make wealth is probably better because it's just a little bit more broad. And I guess this also raises another question. What question can you ask on will make wealth?
What is wealth?
Yeah.
Wealthy how? Yeah.
Okay, good. So what is wealth in this context?
So for like who? In what context?
By what standard? Or like, in other words, like this, does it mean he will be a rich man or he will increase his profit? In other words, you can make more money. Ta'ashir could just mean that it'll make more money. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be like a millionaire, you know, or maybe it is saying you're going to be a millionaire.
Can it be seen as Osher as happiness, or is that a misunderstanding?
I mean, if you want to like talk about Chazal's Ezehu Ashir Hasamech B'chalko, you know, who's happy, who's wealthy, one who's happy with his portion, then you could say that. Remember, our derech in Mishlei is going to be to take the psukim as literally as possible, unless we're forced not to. So we're assuming everything is literal. You know,
again, it was more a translational question. Like I just genuinely.
Yeah, I think I would say that that's not a translational thing. I think that
okay.
Or maybe you're thinking of Ashrei with like an aleph, which could mean happy.
Yeah. Yep. That's my mistake.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we have sure.
Sorry, just one question. I'm not sure if this is what you had in number 2.
Yeah.
But just why it seems that obviously we know there's a difference between a hand and a palm. A palm's only a portion of a hand.
Right.
So just that to me is a little odd that the first half is dealing with a portion of the hand versus the whole hand.
All right, ding, ding, ding. We have a methodology bonus point. Okay. So I was hoping someone would ask this because I found another, I've been finding this, I made reference to this commentary, I think every time we've learned. Let me just get it on the screen for 1 second here. So this is the Re Ibn Kaspi, okay? And it really, I was telling the guys in Yeshiva this morning, it's like all of the methodology things that I've said about Mishlei and never seen written, like every pasuk we do, he's just writing the stuff that I say all the time. So like at least someone's on my side. So here's what he says here. And you're going to kind of have to, we're going to ignore what he says for his commentary right now, but he says, Yacharutim. So he says, Hine ein ledaktik b'shinui halashon bazeh hasefer. You shouldn't pay careful attention. You shouldn't scrutinize the differences of expression in this book. Kamosha kasavnu lifnim, as we've written before. Kihu derech tzachos b'melitza ha'ivris, because this is just the way of Hebrew poetry. Okay, so this is what we call the. In fact, let me actually, Isaac, you know where this is. If you don't mind, if you can post the Malvin Ibn Ezra War in the chat, the article that I wrote. This is what I call it. Thank you. The war between the Malbim and the Ibn Ezra in terms of, I'm just going to share the whole screen. Hold on just a second so I can flip back and forth. In terms of how much do we care about nuances of wording here? So like what Donnie's asking is, kaf is different than yad, right? Like your yad is your entire hand, your kaf is just this part. So do we factor that into the pasuk or not? So Malbim, thank you, Isaac. That's this is a thing I wrote on the two different strains in the Mefarshim about like how much do we care about synonyms in Hebrew, So on the one hand, you have Ibn Ezra and Ibn Kaspi, who say we don't really care about synonyms, and then you have the Malbim and Rav Hirsch and other people like that who say like no, if they use yad, then that means like there's a special idea that is connected to yad, and kaf is a special idea connected to kaf. So my approach is basically ask the question, and if we can explain it in a way where the whole idea is not contingent on it, like if it's like a nuance, then great, but I don't think that the whole idea is going to be contingent on it. So let me list the question because it is a question. In other words, like don't lose sleep on it. Okay, so hold on a second. What did I just say? Oh yeah. What is the difference between yad and kaf? Kaf. Can't type kaf. Why am I not? Oh, because I'm in English. Kaf. Assuming both mean hand. Both are hand words. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think we're probably ready to move into our analysis phase here because we have 4 ways to read the pasuk, So I'm not saying we have to come up with an idea for all of them, but should we just should we pick a way to start with? I guess. I mean, the answer is yes, but like, which way should we pick? I think let's do this because I have because I prepared an idea according to which one is it? So I guess I worked on this one last night. So let's start with this one, and then if we come up with ideas, we'll go to the other ones. So deceitful scale, and even though we now know that the word is pan, scale pan just sounds weird to me, but we'll just say deceitful scale for now. Okay, deceitful scale makes a poor person, but the hand of the diligent will make wealth. Let's stick with that. Okay, So anyone have any ideas here? Any answers to particular questions or ideas? And you know what? I'm just going to move these guys to the bottom, and we'll make recourse to them if we need to.
I mean, I feel like this is a pretty classic idea.
Okay, good. Say the classic idea. Yeah.
So obviously we know that if you are trying to cut corners at the end of the day, you will be found out. So let's say if we're taking the scale example, if you were weighing something for let's say if someone was going to buy something and then you like slipped a little rock in there, did something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like you are most likely going to be caught. And then the other half, it's pretty self-explanatory as well, that if you don't do that, you don't cut corners and you actually put in the work, you'll eventually become wealthy. And I think that also like the mindset, I feel like is also really important here.
Okay. So let's pause and appreciate, okay, which is that that this is a common refrain in Mishlei. When this is what Ricky meant when she said this, like a classic Mishlei idea, is that a lot of the pasukim in Mishlei about lying and cheating are basically about lying and cheating and that leading to consequences of poverty, is because, you know, over time, if you're conducting yourself honestly, so then you have nothing to fear of being found out and like losing your business. Like, yeah, your business might not be growing or whatever, and like maybe there's stuff you could do, but if you are trying to conceal this perpetual theft or the perpetual dishonesty, so then it's only, you know, statistically, like it could be that you could get, you know, only a matter of time before you get caught. And when you do, then you're going to become poor. And just say again, Rivki, what you meant, like, how is it that you become poor?
So you would become poor because eventually you will be found out and then your reputation is going to be completely.
Okay, good. So I found one of the Mefarshim who actually says this, which is the Rid. Okay. So the Rid says, not the Meiri, the Rid here says, Rosh Yeh Lo Kaframia. So he says a poor person will have a deceitful palm. I don't know. I didn't notice that the last time I read. Okay, let's just ignore that for a second and just see the part that Rivki said. So it means he doesn't do business honestly. Everyone is going to be cautious around him. And they won't do business with him. And because of that, he will be poor. Yeah, I'm not sure what he means by this first part. Rush yihi lo kaframia. The poor person, because that sounds like he's saying that the poor person will have a deceitful palm. But then he says that the poverty comes as a result of that. But then let's just contrast it to the next part. Vyad charutim tashir, and the hand of the diligent will make wealth. Hatagar shu noseh v'noseh b'emuna, the merchant who does business faithfully, honestly, v'hu charutz b'malachta, and he's diligent in his work. Shlo yihi atzel, that he's not lazy. Yihi asher, he will be rich. Lefi shemasau u'matanu b'emuna im kol b'nei adam, because he does business honestly with everyone. And mitoch kach he's asher, and because of that he will become wealthy. Now that's not exactly what Rivki said, because he seems to be saying something more than that. But the point, and he doesn't say the thing about being found out. But he implies that people don't know that he's not honest. The point is that what Rivki was saying is that if you are cheating in business in a way that is likely for you to get caught. In other words, if you do one move of swindling someone, so then like you might get away with it, you know. But if you are like miscalibrating your scales, if you're like, you know, like bakers can tell. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to get caught by a baker, but like bakers can tell when they're weighing food. They just get very good at it and very good at estimating weight, you know? So like, or let's say like me, like if I have my food scale, you know, like I eat the same things every day. Like I can tonight, like I was having Trader Joe's rice cauliflower and I'm like, I'm going to do 200 grams, boom, almost exactly 200 grams, you know, because I just know it, you know? So like all it takes is one person who's like paying attention to detail, and then you can get found out. And then once the reputation gets on the street that you are a dishonest businessman, people will not do business with you, and then you'll become poor. Okay. And that's a classic Mishleic idea. And I just want to also emphasize that for just people who are new to Mishlei, you know, this is the whole approach of Shlomo and Mishlei, which is, you know, if you ask the average, you know, frum Jew, why should you not steal? Probably they'll say because it's usur, because it's prohibited, or it's unjust, or it's wrong, you know. And if you said, why should you be honest in business? They'll say because like honesty is good, you know, or it's good to be righteous or whatever. What does Shlomo say? Why shouldn't you steal? Because you're gonna get poor. Okay, you're gonna get caught and you're gonna lose what you want, which is money. Shlomo is not interested in preaching to you in terms of morals. He's interested in telling you, if you want money, don't do it through theft, do it through diligence, So that's how he motivates you. And the reason why it works, he's not denying these other things. Obviously it's usher to steal, and in fact with deceitful scales, not only, I was just going through this in my Rama Bakir shiur, those guys who are in my shiur right now here, that we see that in terms of the losses, in terms of the prohibitions, there's a prohibition to use deceitful scales, and then there's a separate prohibition to own deceitful scales, even if you don't use them, because it's such a temptation, or because it can result in people like having stuff stolen from them if someone doesn't know that it's a deceitful scale, So obviously it's usher to use a deceitful scale. Obviously it's bad to be deceitful, but that's not going to motivate the guy who wants to steal. What's that guy motivated by? He wants to get rich. So what does Shlomo tell him? You're going to get poor, if you do this. And we call that Mishleic mida keneged mida. That's what my Mishleic Rusa, Ken and I call it, is it's mida keneged mida. It's measure for measure. But unlike the measure for measure that is in the Chumash, where God orchestrates a miraculous punishment that exactly fits the crime, Mishleic mida keneged mida is you want something. Well, if you do it in the wicked or foolish way, not only will you not get it, you'll get the exact opposite of it. So you want money, you want wealth. If you do it through deceit, not only are you not going to get it, but you're going to become poor. Okay. So this is the classic Mishleic approach. But what's bothering Rivki about it?
It's too classic.
It's too classic. Okay, right? So this is like what we were saying before about how Mishlei is for different audiences. It's for the simpleton and for the youth, and for the chacham and the navon, the wise person and the understanding person. So this is what happened. Okay, and I got to tell you the saga of this pasuk, because if you see some new faces here, then you're seeing like some of my my Mishlei students from Shalhevet that I said like, I encourage them to come, especially for this one, because what happened was like this. Is I did this puzzle with Rabbi Moskowitz, and we came up with a classic idea, Then I taught this to my Mishlei students over the summer. We were preparing for this year, actually, and we tried to come up, we came up with a classic idea, and we were like, but it's too classic, like we're not getting anything new out of it. So like last night in desperation, I made recourse to Ken, my OG Mishleic Rusa, and we said, okay, we are going to try to like figure out what the chidush is, what's the new idea, and especially in the second half, like it just obviously if you're diligent, you're going to make money, So we were trying to come up with a new idea, and we found one. So the question is like this: is can we either, and we, I mean all of us here, push this idea beyond just the classic cliche idea and get a new insight out of this idea, or can we approach it in a way where there's going to be like a completely new idea? That's the challenge now. I should say, though, are there any questions on the classic idea?
As a newbie to Mishlei, I'm trying to understand how much I should push the words to their metaphorical or literal sense. So, for instance, is a deceitful scale literally a deceitful scale, or is that a tool that one uses in order to do business? Like, is it the system they're using? And then maybe we could say a deceitful system makes a poor person, but the hand of those that are diligent to meet justice within that system makes wealth. Okay, so here's how that's a legitimate question. Okay, so when you say literal, like here's how I would put it, right? So there's literal, okay, on here, and then there is like allegorical, and you're not asking like, should we take this as an allegory, right? But what you're saying is, can the literal be like expanded to like a category, right? Like, is this still literal? Yeah, right. Okay. So the answer is yes. Mishlei does do things like that, and like for example, the way I've learned Mishlei, any pasuk that talks about a king can often be applied to any leader in any situation. Okay, some of them are unique to a king. Like if it says the king can kill you, then like that's not your boss at work. But or if it says a household, then a lot of the pasukim about a household can be applied to any closed system with like discrete moving parts. But here's, in terms of learning, like methodology, here's how I would advise you to learn it. Learn it that it's talking about just the particular, okay? And get the idea entirely out of the particular. And then after you get the idea, then see, does it expand to a larger category? Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying, like, I think
it's a good starting point.
It's a good starting point. And again, the same reason why I don't like the allegorical approaches to Mishlei, it's not that I don't like the approaches. It's that it lends itself too easily to wild speculation, and
Sure.
and the more conservative your approach is, the better, which is why I like to go literal, and I like to go as as sticking to the words as much as possible. And that's also why I don't like the move of like saying what's the difference between yad and kaf, because that's just very speculative. That's just like, if you're someone like the Malbim, then you already have a theory about that. But if it's just us, you can theorize, but it's a little speculative. So I like to like shy away from that.
Because with words like in English, they have like poor, for example, a poor person can be like a value statement about the person's character, or it can be about their, their wealth status. So I guess when we take it to the English, I get a little bit confused as to like what meaning.
So that's another point as well, which is that you've got two levels of question here. You've got the denotation of the word and the connotation. And even if you have a good dictionary and you get the denotations, Leah's smiling because this is English. Then even if you get the denotations, then we're not familiar with the connotations of biblical Hebrew. And so like, we might just be projecting our own connotations on this. Like, for example,
that's my worst fear.
Yeah. Like, for example, like this is the first time in every Mishlei class that this comes up, in when I used to have like set pasukim that I would teach, is there's pasuk that says, that uses the word gift, and like students would immediately jump to saying like, oh, it's talking about someone who's gifted in terms of being talented, and I would say, well, that's how we use the word gift in English, but I don't think, like, you would need to prove to me that matana in biblical Hebrew means that you have lots of talents. Like, don't just assume that the English idioms carry over, Yeah. So that's to stick as literally as possible.
I have to learn more Mishlei.
Oh yes, yeah. That is a good solution in general. Okay, so let's go back to this. So what do we say about the puzzle? Can we either push the cliche idea and like like a tube of toothpaste that's almost empty, and just squeeze out like a chidush dollop of a Mishleic toothpaste, or can we approach the pasuk in a new way where we get a chidush from the entire thing?
I don't know if this is too specific, but can I ask a question on the rid?
Yes. Yeah. And before you ask it, if you remember it, I just want to point out the thing that was confusing me because I didn't react. I didn't spell it out. Is that he seems to indicate, he says, Rosh yihi elo kaframia, a poor person will have a poor scale. And then he goes on to explain people won't do business with him, and then he'll become poor. So I just got confused that he has the poverty as a starting off point and as a consequence. And he switches in the second half to a merchant, which sounds like not a poor person. Okay, Tamara, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is actually about the second half, which is that it says that he's not lazy, which seems to be the definition of charutz, but then also says that he is like doing business honestly. Yes. And those seem to me like two distinct points that don't always have to even come together. Okay. Like which is it, or what Good. Is?
So this is the observation that that led us to our chidush last night. Okay, so let me show you one. I'm not going to give away the idea yet. Let me show you another commentary, and this is the commentary that actually like unlocked the idea for us. This is the Ralbag. Okay, here's what the Ralbag says. So Rush Ose Kaframia. So poor. So he does learn it as a poor person. A poor person makes a deceitful scale. Okay. Oh, sorry. Other way around. A deceitful scale makes a person poor. So he says like this: Kimipne atzluso, because of his laziness, yitztarech linhog biramia, he will be forced to act with deceit. Lakachas mamon ha'anashim shalokidin. Oh, you know what? Let me do this just so we can have this on screen. Sorry, for people who are not as fluent in the Hebrew and want to reread it again. Sorry if this is small. Is there a way to make this bigger? No. All right, so I'm just going to type this as I go. So a deceitful scale makes a pauper. Okay, so because of his laziness, he will need to conduct himself with deceit to take money from people illegally. Shlokidin, who rush, he will become poor. Okay, v'yad ha'anashim hacharutzim, but the hand of the diligent people, hanohagim bezrizus, who conduct themselves with diligence. Okay, he's defined diligence here. Okay, le'esov lichnos be'ofen roi, to gather and amass in a proper manner. Tajiosam, it will make them wealthy. Hine, okay, fine, and then ignore the end because he's connecting it to a different pasuk. Okay, so as Tamar pointed out in the Rid, the Rabag is doing something similar. He's saying that the deceitful person in our pasuk is lazy, and the diligent person is diligent and honest. Okay, and actually, he's not actually pointing out the honesty thing, but the Rid did. So the question is like, where does laziness enter into the picture here? And I think the key here is that that the word, and this is something that I actually should have prepared this ahead of time. The word ramia can either mean dishonest, but it can also mean lazy. Let's see if I'm actually right. I've learned that from Mishlei, but let me click on the dictionary, the biblical dictionary here, and see if I'm vindicated or if I'm proven to be a biblical Hebrew ignoramus. Look. 2 meanings of ramia: deceit and treachery, or I assume this is supposed to be laxness. I don't think laxness is a word. Laxness and slackness. Okay. Oh, and look what pasuk it quotes. Our pasuk 10:4. Okay. Now again, this is just another commentary, right? But I'm not crazy here. Okay. So this now gives us a different way to look at our pasuk here. Okay. So let's go back. And a deceitful scale makes a poor person. So this is now, let's just bring this into our picture here. Hold on. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So when we look at our pasuk, we have to keep in mind that I don't know if you want to say this is a translation issue or like an interpretation issue, but we got to keep in mind now that the ramia, this person or this thing, the person in the first half of the pasuk is both deceitful and lazy. Okay, and I think our idea is going to emerge from there. Okay, so that's your hint for a possible route. So any other step here, and you could say that the charutz, that the diligent person is you could either just say that he's a straight shooter, that he's just honest, but it also, charutz does mean diligent. So there's a fusion there also.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing a step here because I think I've always assumed that laziness was not equated, but it kind of went hand in hand with like trickery. Because I feel like it's a mindset thing of like, if you're already taking that step to trick people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me I think that's a good question. On that? Yeah, sure.
Rifki, can you elaborate on the connection between those two? I'm not sure I'm seeing it.
Okay, basically what I'm trying to say is that I feel like when you're taking that extra step to trick someone, I feel like the laziness is already connected because you don't want to go about it in like the normal way, which might seem like more effort. But
what's your definition of lazy? I'm just curious.
I feel like lazy is literally the opposite of like zrizas, meaning lazy is like, I feel like it's just looking at something and realizing that it's too much work and then trying to find a shortcut. So therefore doing it in a different way than the conventional way, if that makes sense.
First of all, before you say it, Rifki, not to put you on the spot, but do you not remember Sadigon's definition of laziness from 9th grade study skills?
No, I did with the lion. Of course I remember.
No, the definition.
Oh, that's so awkward though.
The mantra.
What's the mantra? You're not talking
Let's
about
see, any of my students remember the Sadigon's definition of laziness?
It's to avoid immediate pain.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. The compulsive need to avoid immediate pain. Yeah. See, you weren't saying it in so many words, but you were implying it. Yeah. Right. So just to respond to Shane and Leah. So we did we actually did this in this shiur. Yeah, we did this in this shiur in the first session when we were doing the intro to Sadigon. Not everyone was here, but we saw that he says that he defines laziness as the compulsive need to avoid all immediate pain and conflict. And
basing this off of though. Now that I think about it, you don't think that goes with what I was saying?
No, it does. It does.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
just you weren't stating it explicitly, so I think that's what
I didn't realize it's so seeped into my so
that's the all good definitions do that. So let me just pose a challenge to what Rifki is saying here. Okay. And I think this is a good kind of challenge because I think it'll push us towards the idea, or two challenges. I got two challenges for you. Okay. So Rifki is saying basically that this type of deceitful person is clearly lazy because he clearly doesn't want to do the work. Okay. Well, is he lazy or is he just super efficient? Okay. That's one thing that if you look at people who are super efficient, they're also trying to save themselves work in order to make more money with less effort. So what's the difference between that and laziness? Okay. Second question I have for you is, and this is not a question. This is just, like I said, this might just push us in another direction. Not all deceitful people are lazy. And I guess someone could do this. Name an example of a type of deception that is not a lazy deception.
Withholding information. From a business
Yeah, I
leader.
mean, that doesn't take much effort though, right?
I feel like a con man.
Yeah, right. So let's say you're a
The
con
long
man
con.
and you have like an elaborate con, okay? And you have to constantly like be concealing stuff and like keeping it up and like, you know, that takes a lot of work. Or let's say like elaborate tax evasion type things where you have to like do a lot of stuff. You know, there are forms of deception that are not, that almost like have more work than like honest work, you know? I mean, they have a payoff also, right? So I think that gives us a clue here because we're not talking about all lazy people who deceive. We're talking about a lazy person who deceives using a deceitful scale. Now I realize, by the way, that the Rabag does not specify scale. Okay, does he? No, it sounds like he's saying that it is just he operates deceitfully. Okay, but I think I still want to keep with our definition that we chose here, is that a deceitful scale. So we're talking about laziness, and by the way, why is a scale a good way to cheat if you're lazy?
You don't
really
have to do
simple.
anything.
Yeah, you don't do anything, right? You what was there was a product that I used to see on infomercials when I was a kid. Set it and forget it. I don't remember what it was. They're probably still on. But like that's all you got to do with the deceitful scale is you just tweak it here and then like you just skim the profits from all of your customers. So it's a very very lazy way to cheat. Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Maybe the pasuk is commenting on two different types of lazy people, and I'll explain this. There's one type of lazy person who relies on deceitfulness, and that's how they're lazy, and that's how they get things done. And then there's the other lazy person who will think of creative ways to get out of doing work, and they'll build rather than slide people.
Yeah. Okay, good. And what do we, let's just take the idea home. What do we call that kind of lazy person?
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Or inventor.
What would the pasuk call that type of person?
A diligent person.
A diligent person. Okay. So in other words, like this. Okay, and this is getting to the idea, and this is something that I need help formulating because even though Ken and I came up with the idea, it needs some refinement. Okay. So there is I'm gonna just talk around it, okay? And I'm gonna trust you to tell me if it's not clear, and we'll refine it here, okay? That the lazy person. So again, laziness according to Sadigon is the compulsive need to avoid all immediate pain and conflict. Okay, so clearly working hard like normal requires a certain amount of pain and conflict, and he doesn't want to do the honest work. But other forms of cheating and deception also require that. So what does he do? And he tweaks his scale, okay, in order to just rack up extra money, okay. But along with that comes a certain, in other words, you see from that he has a certain rigidity that he just doesn't want to be bothered to be actively involved and vigilant in trying to make his money, okay. Because that requires too much conflict. If he has to constantly be on top of things, then that goes against his laziness. Okay, and as a result of that lack of vigilance, then what's going to happen?
He's eventually going to become poor because either he'll get caught, or
Yeah.
by doing this, he's not going to advance himself in any way. So
Exactly. So I think this allows for the previous cliche idea, but first of all, it enhances it because what we're saying here, this is not just the standard, if you cheat, you're going to get caught. This is a guy who is trying to like make an extra profit without doing any work, and therefore does the laziest type of deception possible. That guy is not going to be checking his scales and checking to make sure like that, is there a customer here who has a keen eye? Like, is this guy really like an undercover cop? Like, is someone like you gonna like say, you know, can I use my own like weights? You know, he's not going to be motivated to like engage in that level of scrutiny. So he could be brought down from that. And like Panina is saying, is he's not going to be drawn to like innovate, you know? And the example that Ken gave when we were learning this last night, he named a couple of TV shows that I don't watch of like, but I know the genre of like these, if someone knows the show, then name it, of like these really like badly performing restaurants. And then like some expert comes in and like shows them how to like, you know, like get their act in order and everything like that. And Ken said, like, that's an example of like this type of laziness where like they just like are engaged in this they just don't, they have this rigidity that they just don't want to change any of their routines. And it could be just this dumb thing where like, yeah, like I keep on hiring my cousin to like make the appetizers, and like my cousin's not a trained chef. Well, like, you know, get a new chef, you know, there's a certain like just resistance to change because change requires immediate conflict, you know, and that is going to prevent this person from advancing as well. So he's really got it coming at him at both sides, is that his laziness could cause his scheme to be found out and will not cause him to advance. Now let's then contrast that with what is this diligence? So it's not just zrizus, it's not just hard work. What is the quality of the diligence that helps him to become wealthier? If you could like just set it up as the opposite. I mean, Panina described it well, but like, how do you contrast that with like the personality we just described? What is he doing to make himself rich?
Like working out all the kinks to make sure that every single part is successful.
Yeah. So what he's doing is he's streamlining everything to reduce work, right? And to make everything perfectly efficient, you know? And what that does is, again, like I like the way Panina said it, is in a way, it is a type of laziness, because what you're doing is you are, you know, you have to break through that initial thing of like forcing yourself to break out of your rigid habits and the way that you've been doing things all along. But then once you do that and you find a way to like streamline your business, or to like, you know, like, let's say like in these restaurants thing, like just paint your sign, man. Like maybe your sign is ugly and that's why people aren't coming in, you know, like just do one little thing now. And then that could like have a compound effect, you know? So really what you see from here, and I want to try maybe at the end, like, you know, we're almost at the end, but like to put it together nicely. But what the cool thing about this is in the cliche idea, it was the act of cheating that's gonna bring him poverty, and it was the act of working hard that's gonna make him you know, become rich. According to this idea, it's not really, okay? Is that it is the laziness that leads to cheating is gonna eventually like lead to his undoing and prevent him from advancing, because he's not gonna have this mentality of like adapting his business to the most efficient practices. And it's the mentality of the charut, and the fact that he's willing to just break out of that like initial. There's a pasuk in Mishlei of it says that to the lazy person, it's like there's a fence of thorns in front of him. And the idea behind that, according to my understanding of that, is like if you have a fence of thorns, a fence like just like thorns hanging down, so they hurt, but like there is a certain, if you just like push through them, then you can get through. It's that initial like prickling that is that's hard, you know. So if he gets past that initial resistance, then he'll save himself a lot of work and be able to actually like indulge in the stuff that the lazy person wants. Like in other words, like this, the lazy person wants two things: lots of money and very little like work. And who gets that? The charutz gets that, the diligent person, because he sets up his business in a way that like is maximally efficient and saves himself a lot of work, you know. So he gets that in the end, and he doesn't have to worry about getting caught because he's doing everything honestly.
Also, the Malbim's approach to like meaning of individual words for like kaf and yod here.
Yeah, good. I was gonna say this. Yeah, let's see if what you're gonna say.
It doesn't like the whole idea wouldn't be coming from it. So, but it kind of lends to it. So that kaf is a part and yod is a whole. So they're they're both aiming for the same thing by doing minimal things to get maximum reward, but one is just a half a hand and then one is like a full hand.
Okay. Yeah, you could say that. I have a different interpretation, and both of them work, and both of them are not essential. Is Yad and this one, see, yours is certain.
About investment.
Okay? Mine is going to be a little bit more speculative. Okay. And this is mine's very easy to disprove. Okay, so I'm going to make a statement here, and anyone could disprove it. Is Yad in the Torah is used for action, right? God took us out of Mitzrayim with not an outstretched palm, but an outstretched, a strong hand and outstretched arm. Kaf, palm is like, is like holding out your hand to receive something, So like
an example offhand of a kaf reference in Tanakh.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm asking.
Oh, can I give an example?
Not to put you on the spot. If anyone like
in Torah, you mean like?
Yeah.
I just thought of a disproof. Does that count? Never mind. The first pasuk I thought of was in Eishes Chayil, and I was like, oh, because it talks about a poor person stretching out his palm to receive money. I was like, no, it says Papa Parsa Le'ani. Her hand is out. So there goes my theory. Never mind. Okay.
No, but I'm still curious to see if we can find an example to make it a consistent theory.
Yeah,
it's an interesting
I guess my theory is not coming so much from Tanakh, but just from the way that we use our hands. That when you put out your palm, that's not a gesture that does things. Like you're not. All of the dexterity in your hand is through like operating your fingers to move things in a precise way. Palm is just like you're waiting to receive something, But yeah, this is the type of thing that we could get caught up in forever. I agree with you that it's not like the main part of the idea. So let me just try to summarize, and then we'll officially end for the night, and then stick around to ask questions. So we had two ideas in this pasuk. Okay, so the cliche classic idea, the basic level idea is just a normal Mishleic idea that like if you are trying to make money and you use deception, so then there is a probability that you'll get caught. And even if it's not a high probability, even if it's just like a chance, once you get caught, people will no longer want to do business with you. So you will be poor. Okay, you're going to end up being poor, so it's not worth it. Whereas if you operate honestly and you just go about your work with diligence, so then it might take a lot longer to get wealthy, but you don't have to worry about your wealth getting taken away from that, and you also are guaranteed that you're going to be making money. So that's like the basic idea. But then the higher level idea is realizing that the word ramia and the case in the pasuk, ramia means lazy, deceptive. Okay. The word has the connotation, or it has the denotation of lazy and deceptive, and the deceitful scale is a lazy way of cheating people. So when we hone in on that, we say, okay, well, what is going to be the consequence that this guy gets? So since he is lazy and he's trying to basically he's resistant to any sort of immediate pain and conflict, so he'll do this type of deception that is very easy to get caught because it's perpetual. He will not check himself because he's lazy. And he'll therefore be way more prone to getting caught. So it augments the cliche idea. And then if you compare that to the charuts, the lazy person is also not going to do anything to actively adapt his business to the most efficient ways of performing, or to the needs of his customers, or to anything like that. He's just not going to be making these changes, and he's not going to generate business because it's eventually going to he's going to be behind the times, or he's not going to be satisfying his customers' needs. It's like sometimes you go to I've seen some school websites. I looked at a bunch of college and school websites when I was working on our yeshiva website over the summer. Some of these websites, I feel like they have not been updated since like 2001, before 9/11. It's just these old pages that just don't attract people to to stuff, and you're just going to lose customers if you're not with the times. But if you're a charutz, so the charutz is honest, he doesn't have to worry about getting caught. He's doing the work, so he's actually working to make the money. But the key is he has this mindset. If I want to save energy by finding the most efficient ways to do stuff, I might have to do the work to find that. But once I do that, it'll pay off. And if I do little things to make the to meet my customers' needs. Again, I don't really know what kind of merchant he is, So then that will also have a long-term payoff. So it's what you see from here is it's the mentality of laziness that holds back the deceitful, lazy person from making wealth and puts him at risk of getting caught and losing his money. And then the constant adaptability, creative mindset of the diligent entrepreneur that will give him the amount of like oomph he needs to actually like generate the wealth and save him effort by cutting back, by being lazy as a chacham, like cutting out work for the future and like adapting his business to the best, to the best odds of like making a profit. So that's like a non-cliche idea.
I have a question about that. Oh,
yeah, sure.
Can I,
oh, sorry. I guess Leslie, you go.
Yeah, I'd like to give you a proof to your approach.
Oh, please do. Yes.
So we were learning that Rambam with Rebbe at one time, years ago. The question was, why can't you, if you have scales, stones, the Avanim were off. They were supposed to weigh, 2 pounds and they weighed 1.5 pounds.
Yeah.
Why can't you, what's the issue in keeping the stones, right? You're not using them, right?
Right.
So Rebbe said the issue is that by keeping them, you are demonstrating that you relate to that idea of falsehood.
Uh-huh.
In other words, just like you're saying that the mindset of the person is that certain way, according to the way Rebbe explained the Rambam, it was keeping those illegitimate weights, meaning that the Gavra relates to that Chefza. And
right.
the issue is you can't relate, you can't have any relationship to dishonest weights.
That's good, right? So in other words, it's not, the prohibition is not to keep them because you might use them. It's that why would you be keeping them if not for the fact that there's a part of you that is attached or like prone to being attached to like this kind of thing. So it really has to do with the mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point.
So,
good proof.
I mean, you said something about somebody might steal them or use them.
Right.
And that's not the approach that Rebbe.
Yeah, good. That's a good idea. I like that. Yeah. Someone else wanted to ask or say something?
Oh yeah, I have a question on for the second half of the pasuk. So one of the qualities of the charetz that you were saying was that he is trying to figure out how to be efficient so that he can like be lazy in the future, sort of.
Yeah.
Do you get that from the wording of the pasuk, or because that's something that the lazy person wants and isn't going to be like? Is it coming from a contrast with the first half, or is that somehow inherent in the words?
So I had the same like kernel of an idea that like Penina had of just like realizing like this guy is just he's being like wise lazy, like he also doesn't like immediate pain and conflict. It's just that he knows that he can save himself a lot of immediate pain and conflict in the future. So I viewed it as like the opposite of what the lazy person wants. Or sorry, it's the same thing as the lazy person wants, but the opposite way of doing it. Yeah.
Meaning he's not in terms of his feeling about doing work. He's not like he doesn't have this discomfort of getting through that fence of thorns, but he's doing it and making it easy for himself in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's interesting because if you look at this pasuk in like the more, I don't know what you call it, like the cliche way or the naive way, right? Then it's sort of like the
classic so as to not make people feel bad if they
okay. So if you look at the classic idea, then it's sort of like he's choosing sort of between hard work and money versus not hard work and no money. But the way that you're saying it, it's like less work and more money.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. It's like I said, it's like both the things that the lazy person wants, Yeah.
Wait, so would you say that like the main difference between the two is it too far to say that it's a false view of reality, like the poor person?
A false view of reality. Well, it's definitely a limited view of reality.
Limited is better than like
right. It's like it's in the short run, like he can't see past that initial pain of like, here's the thing I was trying to say also, like there are moves that he could make that are as easy as miscalibrating the scales that would just be improving his business, of like that's actually where I was saying like just paint your sign, you know, like that's a one-time thing, you know, that like, you know, will just make people come in more, you know, these little, like, I guess like the modern term for them is like hacks, you know, like you can like if you get the right hacks or the right, or, you know, atomic habits, right? Then you can set it up in a way where you're saving yourself a lot of work, and it takes the same effort, but just without all the risk, you know? So it is a distorted way of viewing reality, but it's distorted because of how limited it is, and how he really could get what he wants if he just like breaks through that initial pain.
So is it really based off of like morals? Because I feel like it kind of is, because the like we said a billion times, like the chacham he is cutting corners, but in a good way, but in a moral way, and the other guy isn't. So would you say that really comes down to morals?
Well, it comes down to morals, but since we're in a Mishleic framework, then morals are a means to an end, right? Not an end in itself. To him, morals are an end in itself. Like God wants you to be moral, but in Mishlei, you know, he realizes if you're moral, people will trust you and do business with you, and if you're immoral, then people will not. You know, so yeah, it is morals, but I wouldn't say it comes down to it. It comes down to saving yourself work and making lots of money, and morality is the path to get there.
Going on like Ripke's point, like about like reality and like a distortion of reality, deceit is where you like kind of like misrepresentation, no, not misrepresentation, distortion of like the truth. And like part of laziness is like when you don't, or like a different type of laziness would be where you like don't think through everything clearly,
right?
And you kind of like become lazy when it comes to truth,
right?
So
Meaning like he's deceiving himself in a way.
So in that way, like it could make a poor person, or if you're diligent when it comes to like thinking through the truth, it could make you wealthy.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, so you're saying this can be, I thought you were making a different point. You're saying this could be applied to seeking the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, that's all true. Now, this is something that there are Mefarshim who say that, like, I forgot who said this offhand, and I'm not going to look for it right now. But like the true wealth is, and the true poverty is in terms of knowledge, you know? So like, this is definitely true in that sense as well, you know? And that would be like a metaphorical interpretation of the pasuk, but the principle's the same. Yeah. Yes.
I thought maybe I thought the idea that was just being suggested, or at least maybe a nice idea, is that the deceptive scale or the defective scale is basically miscalculating a person's estimation of the effort or the output or the energy, right? The lazy person himself is a deceitful scale in a sense, right? Because if you had to sort of ask him what the input-output calculus is, he just thinks, you know, he
thinks it's all gain.
Hey, it's too painful to think it through. So he basically is evaluating and measuring skewed. His assessment is skewed. His own.
Yeah, that's actually what I thought Leo was saying at first, that he's deceiving himself in a way, or he's like being a victim of deception, because he's horribly miscalculating like this the cost benefit of the move that he's making here. You know, he thinks he's saving himself, he's earning a lot of money and saving himself a lot of trouble, and he's really just doing exactly the opposite in both cases.
Right. Yeah. The other thing, it seems also from the second half of the pasuk, it's highlighting that it's not so much about aptitude as it is about work, you know, diligence and integrity. And you know, at this stage of my life, I've observed in the world, in any economy, I mean, that's the bottom line is, you know, most things don't require you to be the best. You just need to do it right and be reliable, and people will come to you and you can thrive.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in fact, this is not a new idea. I just want to show you though, the Meiri learns the word harutz differently. He says harutz is ha'osim maseim b'yosher. They do their actions upright. V'lashon haritus minyan gezerah u'mishpat. It comes from like a decree and a judgment or a law. Klomar anashim shemaseim nigzarim v'nechtachim al chok yadua v'lo yavru. That they do their actions in a principled would be a good word, in a principled way that they don't violate. So like you said, like integrity is like a good translation of the harutz, and that is like the foundation of like you know, business relationships, you know. I was gonna say one other thing, just one thing to conclude for tonight, and then we'll stop, and anyone who has more questions can stay. If I repeat myself, I think this is a good thing to repeat here. Okay, is the American style proverb, or the many other proverbs are designed to like spoon feed you one idea. Shlomo Melech, the proverb is lahavin imre vina, to make you understand words of understanding, and the point is not just the idea you get at the end. Is in the course of trying to figure out the idea, you end up thinking about the subject and about this decision-making realm a lot. So like we had this conversation tonight, and we ended up thinking a lot about what laziness is and what deceit is and what honesty, integrity, and making money are. So you emerge at the end with an idea, but the real idea was the journey. Like the gain that you get from thinking through the decision-making is one of the intended benefits of Mishlei. So like, let's say we hadn't found an idea at the end, then the discussions we had about laziness and their interaction with poverty is one of the major gains of Mishlei. And I just want to point out that like that is something I'm not going to say it's unique to Mishlei, but like definitely there aren't a lot of proverbs that operate like that. Like a pasuk in Mishlei is like a whole world of like decision-making thinking packed into one thing. And like when you unpack it and like think about all the decision-making scenarios, you get a lot more than just the idea that you arrive at the end. So with that, let's end the shiur for tonight. And if anyone has questions, then feel free to stay, and I'll stay as long as anyone has questions. Have a good night.
I was just curious if we could look over the questions that we wrote down at the beginning.
Sure. Yeah, that's always a good move to do. I always just forget about it at the end. Okay, so what's the correlation between this?
Well, we had good ideas.
Yeah, what's the correlation between deceitfulness and poverty? So that we definitely answered through this. How will deceitful skill make a person poor? Right? That we've answered. Why is it emphasizing yad versus and kaf versus the person himself? So that doesn't fit in so well with our idea, because according to us, it's really not the action; it's the person himself. So, but I'm not so bothered by that.
We took a very individualistic approach.
Yeah, and that's just again, that's like a poetic thing.
Right. So I guess my question there was, who is Well, maybe I should go back to the other shiur, and then if this was dealt in another one, but. In Pirkei Avos, it's like set to the judges. With Mishlei, is this assuming that it's for an individual, or can it be about a collective? Like, how much does a system make its way into this pasuk, or is it really about the individual?
That is going to be dependent on individual pasukim, I think. As far as yeah. Although I did see once, by the way, that so in the first parak in Mishlei, when it's talking about who Mishlei is for, I don't know who says this. Maybe it's the Meiri. So in the first parak in Mishlei, it says, why is this footnote still here? Whatever. Because I'm in the wrong parak. Hold on. Ksuvim, Mishlei, first parak. Why is it still? Oh, because it's not. We're going to open a new window. So it says he says Mishlei's for four audiences. He says it's for the Pesi, the Na'ar, and the Chacham and the Navon, and he spells out what each of them is getting from Mishlei. So the Na'ar, he says Laseis lePesayim Orma. So the Pesi, the simpleton, is getting Orma, cunning. LeNa'ar das umazima. The Na'ar, the youth, is getting knowledge, and Mazima is like a word for like design, that's how our school translates it. Clever, some sort of like plan-based thinking. Yishma Chacham Yosef Lekach, the Chacham will hear and increase his learning. V'navon tachbulos yekne, and the Navon will get strategies. So I read someone a long time ago who said that the tachbulos are for governing the nation, or for governing people who are under his charge. Whereas the other people, it's for like themselves. So maybe that's like an approach you could take. That depending on depending on which audience you say it's for, then it might be for an individual or for different people. So that's possible. I just learned based on each different process though. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
And let's go back to the questions again. Hold on. Just to make sure we answered all of them. Okay, so we had what is deceitful? So we said we didn't really need to define the deceitful. We just need to find the type of deceitful, which is the minimal immediate pain maximal profit, automatic profit, which is what the guy thinks. What is diligence? We defined that. How are the two halves opposites? That we really defined. What is the new chidush? Okay, fine, we did that. Whose hand is making this person poor? So it's his own hand. What is wealth in this context? By what standard? So it's money, right? And by what standard is just financial success. It doesn't mean he's going to be a millionaire. It means that he will. The way we define it, this guy who has the quality of charutz will make more money by that quality. What's the difference between yad and kaf? I don't care. And what practical decision-making idea do we learn from this is being willing to break out of, if you really want to be lazy in a chacham way, you do need to break through that initial rigidity of laziness that locks you into not doing anything that's immediately painful.
4-7, can we do like a little thought exercise? If instead of saying that it's the person for themselves, let's say it's not the person, do we get a different idea out of it?
Yeah, you would get a different idea. And I'm going to say, if you work one out and then let me know. I don't think I have the mental energy to work out a full another idea right now.
Yeah, no, sorry.
That's fine. No, it's a good question. But that's like a new, new way to learn it. Yeah.
Okay.
Matt.
Yes.
Hi. Being a super duper beyond minus novice at this, okay. So I was kept looking at that for the last translation about the scale and the hand.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the scale is a tool and, a hand is not a tool. I mean, well, it's sort of a tool. And then I remembered, I don't know if you remember seeing this magnet on our refrigerator, that the hand that will help you is often at the end of your own sleeve.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm just so awestruck at the fact that you guys are all driving automatic cars and I'm still trying to put the key in.
Yeah, well, that's one pasuk at a time.
Yeah, well, okay. So I just wanted to say that and thank you very much and see you later.
All right, see you later. All right, love you.
I love you too.
All righty. Anything else?
I have another example of the pitfall of a deceitful scale.
Okay, sure.
I was reading this in a book about statistics, and so Blaise Pascal,
yeah,
he would just he would buy bread from the bakery, and whenever and then he'd go home and weigh it, and over time he observed that the baker that he was going to was like cheating in like the bread making, like it was like they like weighed less than, like, let's say they're supposed to be like a kilogram and they were like 0.9 or something,
right?
And so he eventually told the baker about that, and so then he he continued weighing the bread that he got, and he realized that the baker was just giving him the biggest loaves, because he had said something. And so then he I think maybe, I don't remember if he told the police or something, but he was people, you'll have people who are doing things like that, and they'll realize.
Yeah. And for every guy who's cheating with the scales, there's gonna be a guy who cares about the exact thing. I don't know if any of the Shall students are. There's gonna be a Mr. Showcrowd. I'm sure he weighs his bread also. That kind of personality of just exact, and if I paid for this much, then you're gonna get that much, and we all follow the laws, and we're in a lawful society. Yeah, that was meant as a compliment for those who don't know Mr. Showcrowd. He's I think very charutz. I think charutz is a good way to describe him. Yeah. Alrighty.
I just have an extra thought.
Sure.
This really reminded me of that quote. I'm pretty sure Bill Gates said it, but I'm not sure. That I hire the laziest people to do the hardest jobs because they'll find the easiest way to do it.
Oh, I've never heard that one. That is really good. Yeah, I like that.
I don't know what word for word, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I also heard a quote like that recently. I'll have to see if I could track it down. Yeah.
It was Warren Buffett, something about integrity, intelligence, and motivation or something. And integrity is the only one that ultimately mattered. I'd rather somebody be lazy. If you're not gonna have integrity, you want them to be lazy, basically. Because, or I'm sorry, if they don't have ambition, if they don't have drive or energy, they should be lazy.
The one that I heard sounded something like that also, but I don't remember. Alrighty. Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. 2 hours, new ice.
See you
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.